Hi, my name is Louise la Plante, and I'm a behavior support consultant working with clients on the DD waiver in New Mexico. This training video provides an introduction to behavior support services and how people can use positive behavior supports to support our mutual clients. If you are a direct support professional or a family member or a person who is on the waiver, this training might be helpful for you in implementing positive behavior supports. I'm going to share my screen now and bear with me with some of the technology. Like, for example, there's nothing on there right now. So this is a behavior support consultant, positive behavior support training. I call them fun trainings, as in family and friends understanding needs. Because a lot of times when people have challenging behaviors or behaviors that we find annoying or troublesome, they are needing something. So if we understand those needs, we might be better able to help them get those needs met without resorting to some of those challenges. My first and best advice that I can give you when you're working with people, when you're working with anyone, whether they have challenges or not, is a quote from Martin Seligman. And that is to have as much fun as you possibly can. And what kind of great job is it that you can actually make that the single most important part of your job is to have fun. Because if you're having fun, the individuals that you're supporting are most likely having fun as well. So in order to get credit for this class, you have to email your behavior support consultant. It could be me, that's Louise la Plante at yahoo.com, as you can see on the screen. It might be Justina Romero, and she is at justina.jaramillo@hotmail.com. Or it could be Tara Oppenheimer, and she is at mybcbasantafe@gmail.com. And if I didn't get those correct, or if you missed that, you can rewind the video, or you can just email me at the address on your screen, and I will get that information to you. You might possibly be working with other BSCs, and I can also help you get their contact information if you don't already have it. We also have handouts for this training that you'll want to follow along with and have for future reference. And we will send you that link, or you can type it in if you so choose. I'm not very good at that sort of thing, but it might be a good challenge. But we can send you that link or the actual handouts if that works better for you. And again, you just have to contact us at the email, or if you have our phone numbers, you can text or call us. You're going to want to pause the video here and locate 2 reports for the person you are supporting. You want to have a copy of their PBS assessment and their PBS plan written by the behavior support consultant. Some people also have a crisis plan, or maybe a risk management plan, or a PRN drug plan. You'll also want to locate any of these reports that are applicable to the person that you're being trained on today. So once you have found those reports, you can start this training video. And if you are unable to find them, you can contact your BSC or your service coordinator, house manager. Someone like that will probably have it. If they don't, we will need to get that to them as well. All right, so today for our behavior support consultant training, we're going to learn a lot about positive behavior supports, because that is the model that we use in the state of New Mexico to support people who are receiving this service. Our objectives for today are for you to be able to give a positive description of the person you support, including that person's strengths and what a meaningful day or a meaningful life would look like for that person or to that person. The concepts of dignity, of risk, and self-determination are going to be reviewed in keeping with this philosophy. Number 2, learners will understand the concept of functional behavioral assessment and will be able to talk about behaviors using descriptive language, behavioral functions and setting events particular to the individual that you support. You'll also be able to explain the concept of positive behavior supports and will understand and describe the role, your role, in implementing these strategies. Specifically, we talk about the role of the direct support professional, but it could also be anyone that is working with this person. It could be a family member, it could be another therapist, it could be a job coach, etc. And finally, learners will be able to describe the basic role of the behavior support consultant in supporting the mutual client. Our agenda will be to introduce each other. Hopefully we've already met because that's hard to do on a video. We're going to talk about functional behavioral assessment, positive behavior supports, the direct support professional role in providing positive behavior supports. And we're going to figure out, when you pause the video, you should have the assessment and the plan. We will talk a little bit about where you find them, but since we do require you to have them before you get credit for the video, hopefully you already have them with you. And again, if you need to pause the video and come back to it once you find those, that's ideally what we'd like to see. And then we'll talk about documentation review, just a quick review on how to document challenging behaviors. All right. And so one of the most important things in this kind of work is to think critically. If you need to work on your critical thinking skills, there's some things that you can do to help with that. One of the things that I really recommend is self-care. And I don't mean just taking a shower every day, because hopefully we're bathing regularly. But I mean things above and beyond what we do to survive. And self-care and routine are really important for not only our clients, but also for you and me as supporters. Thinking critically, another thing that helps is mindfulness. And by mindfulness, we just mean to kind of let go of everything and be mindful of your presence on the planet, of your breathing, of the basic things, and just being mindful. It's amazing how that can help us to think more critically and more clearly about all kinds of things in our life. We want you to think critically about what is positive behavior support. And we are going to train on that in this training. And number 4, we want you to think critically about your role as a direct support professional and how you use positive behavior supports. And of course, what is the role of the behavior support consultant? And that's me or Tara or Justina or whoever is the behavior support consultant with the person you're supporting. We do have a resource list of mindfulness activities. And there's a bunch of examples, and a lot of these can be used with your client. Sometimes people think that this is just for them as the staff to help, help them relax and help them be more mindful. But if we can train our clients to use some of these activities, then that can be a way to address some of the challenging behaviors that they might have. So positive behavior support, what are we talking about here? Positive behavior support is person-centered. It's about the person. We can't really do it without somebody that we're helping to do it with. I don't know if that makes sense, but let me explain. So it's person-centered. It's a framework for providing support in situations where there is or there's a risk of challenging behaviors. And with challenging behaviors, I do want you to understand that we're not just talking about severe violent behaviors or sexual behaviors that are breaking laws, or we're not really just talking about that. In fact, as behavior support consultants, we're much more often working with social skills and getting along with staff and asking for things to get your needs met so that you don't have to resort to violence or acting out in an inappropriate way. So challenging behaviors can be anything from somebody picking their scabs or just repeating your name over and over, or to violence and sexual acting out. So there's a whole spectrum of challenging behaviors. So when there is situations where there might be a risk of these types of behaviors, PBS understands that challenging behaviors occur for a reason. So we want to ask, what is the reason? And they're communicating important information about what the person's stress, distress, and also their skill development. We want to help that person develop the skills to have appropriate behaviors when they are stressed or anxious or angry, just for some examples. All right. So there's some key components, and you're going to want to remember some of these. They might be on a test later. So some of the key components, and they're also very important to really critically think about these things. So I really want you to focus on the key components of positive behavior supports. So these are person-centered approaches, okay? Always looking at the person, not just the behavior, okay? Inclusion of all stakeholders. In other words, all of us that are on the team, including family, support staff, and any other supporters that might be in this person's lives, including natural supports. We want to include everyone. And that's the way that positive behavior supports is going to be the most effective, if we're communicating and including all of the team members, all of the supporters. The next bullet is assessment-based intervention. In other words, we're doing an assessment. We're assessing this person and the challenges and strengths that this person has. The behavior assessment is generally done by the behavior support consultant or some other therapy level provider. But we do need input from all of those stakeholders. We can't just do this in a vacuum, or it won't really be effective. So we need your help. We need your support. We need to know what you think about any interventions that we are going to try to implement, because then we write a behavior support plan based on what information we get in the assessment. Again, we need the help of the other supporters. In positive behavior supports, we're looking to reduce aversive, restrictive, and punishment approaches and work on skill building rather than punishment, helping the person have those skills, those social skills. A lot of times it really just comes down to not knowing how to get your needs met and not having those skills. And positive behavior supports include staff training, such as this one today. This is an introduction training. In order for PBS to work really well, we have to have ongoing trainings and development, including with the BSC and other team members. Sometimes positive behavior support will include environmental redesign, and that will be written out in the behavior support plan, and the team, again, is involved in developing those redesign ideas and plans. So here's a good resource on PBS, and this is in your handout. The handout, if you don't print it out, that's fine. You can just click on this link then. If you have a printed out handout, it's a little bit harder, and you might want to just get the link from your behavior support consultant, or you can, there's a lot of other resources online if you want to do your own research. That's a wonderful way to learn more about positive behavior support. Just a little bit on dignity of risk and duty of support. The concept of dignity of risk is the right to take risks when engaging in life experiences, and the right to fail in those activities, because we all do that, right? We all have, maybe we had a crush on someone and it didn't work out. We asked them out and they rejected us. We all have those experiences and the right to have those types of experiences. And that's just one example. Skydiving might not be on the list for most people, but we do take risks in life and have that right to do so. We have the duty in the human service field to support dignity of risk, while at the same time helping the person make choices that minimize risks. So that's kind of almost a catch-22, but it is possible to do this. This is a difficult position and maybe the most difficult part of our jobs. So keeping in mind that if you can actually make this happen, you're really helping that person have a better quality of life. And that's an amazing thing. And that's exciting, even though it's difficult, it's rewarding. I also talk about normalization. Normalization is a concept that came out of the 1960s when deinstitutionalization was starting to take place for institutions serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Normalization basically meant that the person would have at the time, normal wasn't like a bad word. So a life like anyone in the community, a life that was self-determined, that they got to decide when they ate, and they get to decide like a normal person. The person will get to determine what their day looks like, and will eat at normal times. Sometimes in the institutions, people would eat like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go to bed by 7. You might see some individuals that choose that lifestyle. Oftentimes, people who have come out of institutions or even community programs are kind of in that pattern, but that doesn't mean that that was what they would determine for themselves. In other words, most people don't really want to eat at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and go to bed at 7 o'clock at night. But if that is their choice, then that's what it's all about. But in normalization, they thought a lot about what people in the community typically do. And typically people work till 5, so they wouldn't eat at 4. So that's just an example of normalization. There's a lot of information about that. If you look for Benjit Nerji in your resource list, there should be some stuff on self-determination and normalization that I have also developed. And there is a link here that is also in your handout. So PBS and functional behavioral assessment. So we talk in PBS, we do a functional behavioral assessment. So there's a lot of acronyms, a lot of things that sound kind of the same, and it can be confusing. So when we're going to provide PBS to someone, we have to do an assessment. So we call this a functional behavioral assessment, or functional behavior assessment. Usually a function is described as something that the function of the behavior is usually described as avoiding or gaining something. Okay, so the person is trying to avoid punishment or avoid reprimand or avoid doing a chore or going out to the store. They're trying to avoid something, so they engage in a behavior that might get them out of that, or take that, have people forget that they're trying to get them to do something. The other reason, the other function for behaviors is to gain something. I sometimes use the example of the kid in the store who wants candy and is screaming, and get to the counter, and that's where they put all the candy, right? So if you've ever had a small child with you at the store, it can be a problem, and they can scream because they want to gain something. So that's just an example of what we mean by to gain something. So when we're doing the functional behavior assessment, we are thinking about the function of the behavior. We're trying to discover or uncover the reason for the behaviors. And so we want to know, who is the person? Who is this person? What makes them tick? Who are they? What are the behaviors we find problematic? Now, I might find some behaviors problematic, and you might find them not to be. So we need to include all the stakeholders. What are we really looking at? What are we working with? Why do we find that problematic? Is it problematic for everyone? Is it really a behavior that needs to be addressed, or is it just one that some people find annoying? Does the person have a problem with it? Is it causing them any issues at work or at home? So those are some of the things we look at. We look at the setting events. What is the setting for these challenges, these problematic behaviors? Where are they occurring? Are there fluorescent lights? Are they occurring at home? Do they occur right before mealtime, maybe after mealtime, in the community, maybe at the doctor's office? What are those setting events? And what are the antecedents? What maybe flips the switch, or is a trigger? Or what is occurring right before the behavior? And does it always occur then, or just when, what is present every time or most of the time, or that we know are known triggers? And then consequences. Consequence can be a natural consequence. We're not allowed to do punishment. So we can't say that we took away his Xbox for a week. We can't do that. That's not positive behavior supports. But sometimes there's natural consequences, like you lose your placement, or your roommate won't talk to you again, or your girlfriend breaks up with you, or what are the natural consequences, and what are some of the maybe legal consequences? And so when we're looking at all this, we can see that there's places in there where we could change the dynamic, and that could make all the difference. And that could be, simply put, positive behavior supports. If we change the dynamic, and it's going to depend on who the person is and what the behavior is, of course, and all of these other things. Each person with a PBS BSC plan require that you text the BSC if there has been a behavioral incident that requires any reporting, or if you need help at any time while supporting this person. So when you're working with the BSC, you do have our cell phone numbers, and you can text us and let us know what's going on. If there's a report that is in the TheraP system or in some other system that your agency is using, text us and let us know that we need to look for that. If you want to talk, I suggest texting and letting us know when a good time to talk would be. And usually, as soon as we get a break, we might be with a client or otherwise occupied, and we can call you back. And I know that you're busy too. I understand that. So sometimes I have people just call me directly, and that's fine too. But just know that if I'm busy with someone, I might not be able to take your call. And I think that goes for most of the BSCs. We do want you to text message us shortly after the issue by the person who witnessed the incident and within that day. And you could use TheraP. If you're using TheraP, T-logs or GERs or BERs can also be used, but just text us and let us know that you did a T-log. You don't even have to tell us who it's on. Oftentimes we will really already know, and we can look it up then, or we can call you if you want us to call you. If you don't want us to call you, let us know that. So where do you find these reports? When you pause the video a while back, you should have found a PBS assessment and a plan for the person that you're working with and being trained on today. And it could be more than one person. So then you would need an assessment and a plan for each of those people. Some people have a crisis intervention plan, a PRN plan, or a PRS assessment and plan. Each agency is a little bit different about where you find these documents. Most of them are in the home if you're working in supported living, and should be in a working file or a file with the ISP. If you're working as a job coach or in some other capacity where you don't have access to the home files, you will need to talk to either your BSC or your service coordinator to have access to those documents. And within the behavior support plan, there are written teaching and support strategies. And that is where you're going to find the person-centered PBS recommendations. And that's really the meat of the BSC plan or the PBS plan. And that is done annually. All these reports are done once a year or more often if things change and we need to update them, but at least once a year. And you can find those written teaching and support strategies in each of the plans. There might be some in the assessment, but the plan has more comprehensive strategies for you to use that we try to help each other develop. And so if there's something in there that you don't like, you let your BSC know. Doesn't mean we're going to change it. You might be in the minority, but we definitely will think about that and try to incorporate your ideas into these strategies for support. If it works for you, it might work for the other supporters. In documenting about behavioral issues, we want to use language that describes the behavior. And what I mean by that is we don't want to say, Louise was angry, because you don't know how someone is feeling. We can't read minds, and we might have some empathy, but we still don't really know what someone's feeling. So we want to describe the behavior. What was that person doing? She was screaming and yelling and calling me the B word or whatever. We want to describe the behavior so that everyone kind of pictures the same behavior and knows what that looks like. You want to follow all HIPAA guidelines. One of the HIPAA guidelines that I noticed that is sometimes violated is that we use the roommate initials in the client's documentation. So we might say, in my documentation, you might list Tara or Justina. We can't do that. That's a violation of that other person's HIPAA protections. So follow all HIPAA guidelines, be confidential. Using language that describes behavior is non-judgmental, because we don't say the person's messy. We might say they threw their clothes on the floor. It's not judgmental. We don't want to judge using our own lens. And we use documentation to communicate with each other. Sometimes I don't meet some of the staff because maybe they work a graveyard shift, or maybe they work on weekends and I'm not there on weekends, or maybe they work on Monday and that's not the day that the BSC is there. So we use this to communicate. And documentation can be in the daily notes. They can be on behavior reports, on T-logs or GERs or BERs. It's always important to follow these guidelines, no matter who you're writing for and where you're doing that writing. I do some training on psychotropic meds. For today, I just want to say that we are responsible for monitoring psychotropic and PRN psychotropic meds as BSCs. And if the person you're supporting is on those medications, you will also want to communicate about issues around those medications. Even if you want to tell the BSC the medications really do seem to work to help this person, we want that feedback from you. We need that feedback from you. So I do appreciate that. I'm not going to go into the psychotropic meds. That's a training for another day, but I did want you to know that. So here are some resources for you, for people who are supporting mutual clients. And usually we call those people direct support professionals. So that's why DSPs is here a lot. So I really recommend David Petoniak. His deimagine.com website has just tons of resources for direct support professionals or for BSCs or anybody who's supporting someone with intellectual or developmental disabilities can benefit from many of the resources. There's also a direct support professional organization, and that is nadsp.org. I really recommend that you look into that. It provides information for the work that you're doing that might not be as available. Things that you guys deal with that maybe we're not even, like, it's not on our radar. So that's a good resource for you. I try to update my resource file with new resources and new ideas for direct support professionals or for positive behavior support plans and ideas. So that link is also in your handout and here on the page. And that's the last link there. These are some books that I recommend for direct support professionals. All of these books are available in Kindle format. If you would like to be gifted one of these books, you need to email me and I'll ask you a couple questions, and I am happy to gift people who are interested in reading and learning and critical thinking about the work that they're doing. I'm more than happy to gift these books. Some of the DSPs I work with have all of these books that have been gifted to them. If you want to be one of those people, start emailing me and let's talk. These are some discussion questions that are also in your handout that help you to think critically. You don't have to write this out. That was not. Okay, and then that's all I have for today. This is kind of dated, this last slide, but we are having colleagues in art class. It's going to be on the second Friday of each month at 1:30 on Zoom. And we are also providing friends and relationships classes. And those are going to be actually from 1 to 3 on Wednesdays in the fall. And that is the fall of 2022. Anyway, thank you guys for joining today. There is an assessment that you will need to complete to get full credit for this class, but I appreciate your time in watching, and I hope that you will complete that assessment. You can get that at the link in your handout, or you can get it from me by emailing me at louiselaplante@yahoo.com. And if you need anything else, please get a hold of me. I'm happy to help you support the people that we support mutually. And thanks again, and have a great day.